What I wanted to do was ask Dr. Pratt to speak with us about how the College for Liberal Arts and Social Sciences fits into the overall energy program at the University of Houston, and specifically what he's doing in order to make that happen. So, Dr. Pratt, tell me a little bit about the upcoming Energy Capital Summit that you all are doing, and how did you all get going on that?
Well, in the Center for Public History, we're sponsoring something that we've started to call the Energy Capitals Project. It's international people from all over the world: Australia, Africa, Mexico, U.S., North Sea countries. We're comparing notes on how the development of oil or coal or nuclear power affected regional growth. It's really interesting. We've got a great response from people when we start to talk about this. My research has, for 25 years, been in part about Houston as an oil capital. So
right.
I'm in the process of planning a book called Oil Capital or Energy Capital, 20th Century Houston, Oil-Led Development, 20th Century Houston, something like that. So as I write that, this group will be somebody to bounce ideas off of, and I think the other way, because we were one of the first big oil centers. Other nations like Stavanger in Norway, Aberdeen, will have a point of reference coming much later in the game to oil and oil-led development to be able to compare themselves to us. So we're getting a great response from people. The first meeting of the people in one place here at U of H will be in late May. We have a National Science Foundation grant to help pay for it. The university's helping us, and we're really looking forward to it. We knew we had a good idea because everybody we approached from different regions said, yes, we'd love to come.
And these are not just scholars, but they're politicians. And
well, right now it's mainly historians with some political scientists, and then other disciplines to comment on papers and to take part in discussions. We will expand in the future to include particularly political science and economics and government officials and maybe even business people.
So is this like a series of books you see spinning off of this kind of conference, or a yearly conference, or in different places?
We hope it's in really nice places, for as long as they're really nice places. Perth, Australia is a good place.
That is a good place.
I like Stavanger.
Yeah.
Sooner or later we'll go to Calgary, and maybe to Anchorage.
Right, but just in the summer.
In the summer. And we hope that there are regular meetings, maybe every other year.
Right.
And we hope that there are regular edited volumes of essays. Mm-hmm. We haven't had to worry about that yet. What we really hope for originally is that we'll get together and it'll be as much fun when we're there as it had been thinking about coming. And that the people who said, "Oh, that's exciting," will leave thinking, "Well, that was exciting." And I think we will. It's an impressive bunch of people, and everyone seems to be eager to get to Houston.
So how does the NSF? Where's the hook for the NSF on this?
I think the NSF, they're funding a lot of energy, and we believe this was also Obama stimulus money. So the hook was they had money to spend, and we were in line. So we think, though, that as we move toward more technical issues, toward engineering issues, all kind of infrastructure and cities issues, that it will be the kind of project that the National Science Foundation and others will continue to fund. So that's what we hope.
And how's your relationship with the petroleum engineers and the companies in Houston with this? Is this something you hope to engage them with too at a certain level?
I think where that is beginning to happen is with the Greater Houston Partnership. They're involved in something called the World Energy Cities Partnership. That we haven't been in, but we're gradually almost becoming a part of that, I think, the way this is working out. So they have a collection of cities larger than our cities, the people who are coming here, who meet regularly to talk about common problems. And I think this will become a dimension of what their World Energy Cities Partnership does. And there's a scholar exchange program that I'm becoming a part of, this meeting in Houston from that group in early May. So and one of the things we're going to talk about as potential joint research or variants of the Energy Campus Project. So I think a lot of good things happen. I think a lot of, at my age, they need to be fun. And this sounds like a lot of fun. And it also builds on research, a very interesting idea. If I do what I'm planning to do, I will end up rewriting my dissertation at age 61.
Wow. So, we never get away from it.
You never get away from it. And the great thing at age 61 compared to 25 or 26, I now know something about the topic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Very encouraging.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, which we didn't when we did it. Well, so how does that fit in with U of H energy initiatives and things like that? So obviously there's the Center for Public Policy and the Center for Public History involved, but there are other folks within class who are working with you on that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. We have, many of us in class are connected to others on campus.
Right.
And including the engineers, but particularly the people in business. I'm a joint appointment with business. We have another scholar who's a historian, but he teaches in the business school. A lot of connection with the law school. We all started going to the meetings about U of H, what's become U of H Energy, the cluster, wondering where we fit. And gradually we said, okay, here's where we will make ourselves fit, or try to. We met, called ourselves U of H Centers for Energy Management and Policy.
Okay.
And that's 5 centers that are well established. We all have money and we all have a commitment to our centers. And we're trying to find things that we can say, however this fits with U of H Energy,
right,
it fits together and it's in the interest of our existing centers. So this World Energy Cities, the World Energy Capitals Project will have people from that cluster. We are trying to imagine a curriculum that would allow, with a few more courses, it would allow energy minors for various disciplines.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And
across the colleges.
Across the colleges. Where we would have an introduction to energy, and then 4 or 5 others that you would choose 2 or 3 from: history of energy, political issues, geology, whatever you were doing. So that's part of the direction we're taking. We're also involved in this is the Great Eastern Partnership, because they have something called energy planning committees that we're also on, trying to understand what energy policies are in the best interest of Houston. It's kind of an interesting discussion to have, because the energy industries in Houston are fairly diverse. Maybe not looking from the outside, but when you draw back a little bit, when you get in the meetings, you realize there's a lot of different political interests at the table. So they're trying to find a consensus, and we're, as academics, we can be a little detached and help with that. So the energy centers, the UH Centers for Energy Management and Policy, go from our very strong program in energy and environmental history in the Center for Public History to Jim Granado in the Center for Public Policy. David Francis Times has people in it who work with oil industry and consulting and others. We're connected strongly to the Global Energy Management Institute, GEMI, and the Business School. And there's a very good energy and environmental law center in the law school, in the law center. So fun to talk with people. The synergy have not yet developed in the way we had hoped, but we all have a lot to do in life. So we're all and this is a new task, as a collective task, and I think good things will come from it.
And so the grant writing is coming together.
The grant writing is really the next big priority. We need money.
Oh, there you go.
One of the things we would love to do in our group, so the engineers and others in the energy group are doing slightly different things. We would love to have visiting scholars. We'd love to have postdocs, which are good for the Tier 1 initiative and the way they count heads. But it also, we found in the past in history, incredibly good for our graduate students. And realistically, if joint energy curriculum is to evolve across departments, and if a body of knowledge that's not discipline specific is to emerge, our graduate students are going to be the key to that. Young people who get immersed in that in graduate school and go off knowing more than, say, other people in history would know about energy, other people in economics, other people in political science, and take that knowledge to other places. So we do cooperate some with the geologists and the petroleum engineers. I don't know whether it'll happen, all this is easy to talk about, but I've talked about offering a version of the American History Survey that's required of all freshmen on the history of the petroleum industry that the petroleum engineers and the geologists would take. I did that when I was at A&M a long time ago, and it was a really fun course to teach. The petties would come and know all the stuff I didn't know, and I knew all the stuff they needed to know. They didn't even know they needed to know it, but I had to teach them that about the companies and the regulatory agencies.
Well, it's always nice to know the history of the groups that you're involved with, right?
And the company you're going to work for.
The trajectory of these companies and things. So speaking of that, let's take just a few minutes to talk about this book that you were net deep in, right? So the history of Exxon, from what I understand, it's one of the series of 4 or 5 that the company has asked scholars to write, and you're You've taken some section from the late 70s to 2005 or something?
Yeah, in the late 1940s, Exxon, then called Standard Oil New Jersey, started what amounts to the origins of modern corporate history by going to the Harvard Business School and asking several Harvard Business School professors to undertake a history of Exxon, 25-year history, that could take an objective view from outside the company, but a scholarly view which wasn't muckraking, data driven. And 4 times they've done that now, 3 at the Harvard Business School, 1 at Tulane, and now the 5th time at the University of Houston, to write essentially 25 to 30-year chunks of their history. So my chunk is 1973 to turn of the 21st century, and 73 is an epic defining event in oil history, the era of OPEC embargo, which started the first big price spike. So it's been fun. It's incredibly difficult. Exxon is truly global. They're very big. They're involved in all kinds of things, and I'm trying to write a 300-page book. The books before me were 8.
It's like an abstract, really.
It's an abstract. I'm trying to find the best cases and develop them, and then and it's hard to do. So
we have Valdez, right? Obviously, what are some of the other chapters? And how do you choose those? Because there's just so many things you can write about.
So 73, the obvious place to start is in 1973 to 1980. Most of all of the oil-producing nations nationalized Exxon and all the other big international oil companies. The Saudis, the Libyans, the Venezuelans, running down the list. So suddenly the company has to adjust to that. 73, the first big oil price swing starts. For the 40 years before that, prices had been predictable and fairly steady, and suddenly low, and people who run the companies have to understand what happens when the price goes way up, thinking it's going up forever, and then in the mid-80s, what happens when it comes down very fast. So a year of price swings. Those are 2 big themes. I call it producer power, the fact that the nations that own most of the reserves nationalize them, and Exxon no longer owns them. They contract for them. It changes their world. It also pushes them into the most interesting part of the book to me, and that is trying to find non-OPEC oil. So you get the story finally of the Alaska pipeline, the Prudhoe Bay, story of offshore California until leasing is suspended. Gulf of Mexico all the way out to the really deep water today, the incredible story of the North Sea. And then in the more modern era, you get trying to go into Russia when you don't know what what's going to become of Russia in the early 90s. And finally, Exxon survives in one spectacularly large project offshore on the east coast of Russia, the Sakhalin Islands.
Okay. And then Mobil, obviously, also Mobil coming in.
Mobil's coming in. That's a hard part of this kind of history. You can see Mobil looming out there everywhere Exxon is, second largest oil company in America many of those years. And you don't have access to the Mobil sources because they are scattered now, and the deadline looms. But you would ideally this could be a history of both companies coming together, but it isn't. It's a history of Exxon meeting Mobil at the pass and absorbing it. And so when you say how you choose chapters, you start, obviously the Exxon Valdez oil spill is a major event, a chapter. Right now we have 10 chapters. Obviously, the merger with Mobil, which is the largest merger in the history of the oil industry, in the history of corporations, I think, still, and changes, starts a new history for ExxonMobil. So there's 2. I like the offshore. I've studied that for 10 years now, and I've done a whole lot of interviews. The whole evolution of offshore from early. I started really in the 1930s. They were drilling in Galveston Bay and on piers at High Island. I'm involved in this.
It seems like that's an appropriate thing for you to cover too, given that you're Houston and those kind of things, OTC, all those things that take place here. That really needs to be done.
And I think one of the things I want to show in this book, the oil industry always talks about the importance of technology. Offshore gives you a way to watch how quickly and how amazing these technical processes are. They say it's like putting a man on the moon. It seems harder to me to drill through 2 miles of water and then to go down underneath salt deep into the ground, then to drill sideways, and then
with a straw, basically.
With a straw, it's an amazing set of technology. And one of the big things I'm showing through time is how that evolves. It's really fun to look at. The other thing I'm showing through time is how Exxon's relationship with governments and national oil companies evolve. And that's really interesting because before 1973, they were the kings. They did what they wanted to, and the governments responded. And in the modern era, the governments now dictate what happens, particularly the governments that own big reserves.
Well, that just seems like a theme or a thread that you pull through the entire history, right?
Well, those are the two big ones, changing technology and changing the relationship with governments. And in the government, you have the national oil companies, which now are bigger than Exxon by many measures, but when my book starts are almost non-existent. So that's something big that happens. Then it's mainly management history. My dad was in the OCAW, the Oil Chemical Atomic Workers Union. I would like to do the labor history. The book won't hold it. It's not why I was hired.
Yeah.
And also labor, the workers' questions get a lot less important in my era because they cease hiring so many workers, particularly in the refineries. They almost, computers almost run them, whereas even when I worked in the summers in the petrochemical plants, they needed a lot more people to run them than they do now. So.
Right. Okay, so in this book we can expect to see next year?
This book is going to be finished in September, so I would guess it will be published sometime before the end of 2011 or in early 2012. It'll be out of my hands after this year. Which is all I care about.
Right, exactly. And that's University of Texas Press?
It's the University of Texas. I have an advanced contract, and we'll see what happens. There's another part of the process that I'm playing like doesn't exist, which is going to be some hard editing. I've been writing really fast and really long, so I'm writing more pages than I can use, but I always have. And then we'll have to
all by longhand, right?
Yeah, no.
And as we know, Dr. Pratt was the interim dean in class since February of last year, so that probably played a role in your writing too, didn't it?
That's stopped me in my tracks. I'm catching up now. Okay. I'm playing catch up. I'm working harder than I've worked in a long time.
Well,
in terms of steady, trying to write words.
Right, but you're not teaching right now, so you can just focus on your writing
and come and be interviewed.
Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming by. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the old stomping grounds.
All right.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dr. Pratt.